Hello, everyone, and welcome to this Getting Started webinar for Homeschool Tracker. My name is Dave, and I just want to say thank you so much for joining us tonight. We're going to get started here in just a few minutes, but before we do, I'm just wondering if you can hear me and you can see the slides. If you could just send me a quick message, you can click on the little Q&A button there in your viewer. Just send a little question that says, "Yes, I can hear you," and "Yes, I can see the slides." That would be super helpful. That way I know I'm coming through nice, loud, and clear for all of you out there. So again, if you can hear me and you can see the slides, just send a quick message that says that yes, you can hear me. That would be great. Okay, Shauna, you can hear and see the slides. Perfect. Thank you so much. Well, let's go ahead and get started. My name is Dave, and I'm one of the owners and operators of Homeschool Tracker. I just want to say thank you so much for joining us tonight. I know there are plenty of other things you could be doing at 8 o'clock on a Tuesday, so greatly appreciate you taking some time out of your busy day to learn a little bit more about Homeschool Tracker and how you can use it in your homeschool each and every day. So one of the goals here at Homeschool Tracker is to not only create tools and software that you can use to make your homeschool more successful, but to also give you the resources, the training, the help, the support to use those tools effectively. And that's what webinars like tonight are all about. Really, just to give you that training, give you that support, and answer any and all questions that you might have. So, with that being said, let's go ahead and jump in. Going to talk a little bit about what we're going to cover tonight. So, first things first, we'll talk about where to find help. Then we'll take a little tour of the interface of Homeschool Tracker, kind of let you know where things are and what to expect. Then we'll talk a lot about subjects and courses and the difference between the two, because it's really important to understand how things are organized. Then we'll dive into assignments, which are really the heart of all of your record keeping in Homeschool Tracker. We'll discuss lesson plans, which are a really popular feature. We'll talk about reports, and then we'll discuss workflows. And what I mean by workflows is really just the kind of the ins and outs, the day-to-day workflow that you might use with Homeschool Tracker. We'll actually talk a little bit about that as we go, but we'll go ahead and kind of recap that there at the end. And then we'll spend as much time as necessary in Q&A. So any questions that you might have, we can certainly answer those all at the end there. Typically, we go for about an hour, and then I'm willing to stay as late as necessary to answer all of your questions. And we are recording this, and we will send each and every one of you a link to this recording as soon as it's available. So let's go ahead and dive into where to find help. So first things first, I would say the best place to find help are on webinars just like this. We typically do these every other week on a Monday or Tuesday night. And we will cover a number of different topics. So we'll do these kind of getting started webinars. But really, probably the most value tends to come out of the Q&A portion, where we just answer your questions. And they can be very specific to you and your homeschool and your account and that sort of thing. We're happy to answer all those questions live. So definitely these webinars are a great place to find help. Also, the getting started tutorial videos. So if you jump over to our help site at help.homeschooltracker.com, you will see right at the top these getting started video guides, and they're broken up into 11 different parts. Each one is just a few minutes long altogether. I think it's only about 30 minutes. And we cover a lot of these different topics tonight in the webinar, but you can also jump to a specific video if there's something that you want to brush up on. I will also mention that for the webinars from our main Homeschool Tracker site, under support and then training center, you can find all of the upcoming webinars to register for, and you can also find all of the replays of previous webinars. So all of our getting started webinars are here, as well as one that we did a few months ago specifically on lesson planning within Homeschool Tracker. So that was a deep dive into just lesson planning. We'll cover a little bit of it tonight, but if you are interested in that at all, I would highly recommend watching the lesson planning webinar because we go over a lot of those intricate details. And then we'll be hosting several webinars on other topics in the near future as well. But this is definitely the place to stay in the loop on those. And then the help documentation, again, I said over here at help.homeschooltracker.com, this is also our documentation here. And as you can see, it's more of a reference guide than a manual, I would say. So what I like to point out to folks is that on any screen within Homeschool Tracker. So I'm just going to jump over to the calendar view for a second. On any screen in Homeschool Tracker, if you click on the help link up here in the top right, it will take you directly to the relevant page on our help site. So this page in particular kind of tells you anything and everything you ever wanted to know about the calendar page, including links to other relevant pages. Additionally, I would recommend searching within the help site. So for example, if I was looking for information about days off, I could go ahead and just type that into the search and jump straight to the page just on days off within Homeschool Tracker. So it's definitely a really powerful resource. There's a lot of content in here, but it's really comprehensive. So if you have any questions, I would start there in the help documentation. And then lastly, email. You can always email us at support@homeschooltracker.com. We monitor that email box every day and respond to each and every email within 1 to 2 business days. So feel free to email us with any questions you might have directly at support@homeschooltracker.com. Okay, so now let's jump into a quick tour of the interface. So I'm going to jump back to, just close that, jump back to Homeschool Tracker here. And after you log on, you are presented with this menu here. So I'm going to go ahead and kind of walk through the menu and what all of the different items here are. So the menu is broken up into 5 different sections. So you've got schedules and planning up here in the top left, and then students, reports, manage lists, and your account. So starting up here with schedules and planning, this is where you'll find the agenda, both in calendar view and list view. The agenda is really just that. It's kind of your day-to-day task list of all the things that you and your students need to accomplish. This is where you'll also find your lesson plans, um, and as well as the shared lesson plan library. Below that is the students section. This is where the list of students lives, the grade levels that each of those students are in, the grading overview, which shows you each of your students and all of the grades that they've received over time. This is the lesson plans and presets page, which we'll talk about a little bit later. This is also where you can track skills um, and add supplemental information to your transcript, things like awards and achievements or volunteer work, that sort of thing. In the middle here is the reports section, and each one of these reports can be generated as a PDF file, which can then be saved, emailed, or printed. So things like your attendance report, the daily task list, which we'll talk about a little bit later, your resources, scope and sequence, transcripts are all right here in the middle. Over here on the top right is what we call the manage lists section of the menu. And this is really more of a maintenance section of the program. And I say maintenance because you're probably not going to be in and out of here on a daily basis necessarily, but each one of these items here is essentially a list of items. So for example, activities, this is where the list of all of your activities would live. Um, Courses, this is where a list of all of your courses are. And so that's why I say it's more of a maintenance area because, for example, if you wanted to create a new course, you would come in here, add a new course, but you're not going to necessarily do that every day. But all of the items within these different lists are referenced by assignments, by lesson plans, et cetera, that live all over here. So it's really important to understand how everything kind of relates to each other. And then in the bottom right is the Your Account section. This is where you'll find the program options, where you can turn on and off different options within the program. This is where your school profile is, where you can change the name of your school, that sort of thing. And then the subscription and users page, where you can update your subscription preferences, change your billing terms, as well as the users section, which allows you to create user logins for your students or other teachers. So that's just a quick overview of the menu. Your menu might look a little bit different than this. I have several optional fields turned on in the program options right now. By default, those are probably turned off, so you might not have a few of these items, but you can always turn it on and off any of those optional fields right in the program options down here in the lower right. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about subjects and courses, because one of the things with Homeschool Tracker is that once you understand kind of how things are set up or structured, or I should say, how you would like to set up and structure things, things become much clearer, much easier in terms of how to use Homeschool Tracker. So we look at subjects as really broad areas of study. These are things like math, language arts, history, or science, really those big, broad subjects, right? And courses are the specific areas of study within a subject. So, for example, Algebra 2 might be the name of a course that belongs under the subject of math. Composition 1 would be the name of a course that belongs under the subject of language arts. And Physical Science 1 would be the name of a course that falls under the subject of science. You might also have courses like, freshman biology or, music 2 or something like that. And those all fall under subjects. So you can think of subjects as kind of this umbrella subject, and within that subject, you have a list of all of these different courses. Um, so most homeschool tracker accounts might have anywhere between 5 and 10 subjects. Anything more than that, you might want to think about how you're organizing things. But they could have literally hundreds of courses because over, you know, a high school career or over your student's career, they're going to have multiple different courses that they would be taking, and they all are going to fall under different subjects as a way to organize them. So let's do this as a little demo, and I'll show you kind of what that looks like. So I'm going to head back over to Homeschool Tracker. And let's go ahead and take a look at the subjects list right here under the Manage Lists section of the menu. So here you go. Right off the bat, you'll probably notice that there's not really a lot of information here. And again, it's because subjects are really just a broad umbrella that courses kind of exist underneath. So I have 4 subjects here: history, language arts, math, and science. If I wanted to look at one of these, I could just double click on it and I could see that here's the history subject. It's a core. The courses that I have that fall underneath it, I have one called Ancient History 1, and it's currently active. If I wanted to create a new subject, I could just go to Action, Add, give my subject a name, and hit Save. But otherwise, there's not really a lot going on here because, again, subjects are just really broad kind of buckets of courses. So let's jump over to the courses screen right here under Manage Lists. And immediately you'll notice that here are my courses. I have 10 of them right now. And there's a lot of other information here. So you can see not only the name of the course, but you can see what subject it belongs to, how many credit units it's worth if you're using credit units, how those are calculated, a grading scale, etc. If I open it up, I can see all of the different fields, ways to customize this course for that specific class. But let's go ahead and create a new one. I'm going to go to Action, Add. I'm going to create a new course. I'm going to call it Reading 1. And for the subject, this will belong to Language Arts. I'm just going to go ahead and type in Language Arts. And I'll stop right there because you probably noticed that as I was typing, Language Arts popped up right here. And that's because this is what's called a smart entry field. And we have these throughout the program. What they do is as you're typing within that field, it'll actually conduct a search within the list of subjects. So that subject list that we were just looking at, as I'm typing, it's searching that subject list for anything that matches what I'm typing, and it'll display it here. So I can go ahead and select language arts, and that way I know I'm selecting the right subject. Another option is if you don't know the name of your subject, you can simply enter the space bar, and you'll see a whole list of the subjects available, and you can select it that way. Okay, and so the other options here, I'm just going to leave these as the default for now, but you can customize these as you see fit. And if you have questions about those specifics, I would direct you to the help section on courses, or you could certainly ask a question about them later. So I'll go ahead and save this. And then I'm going to refresh this to view it. And so now you can see, whoops, here's my new course, Reading 1, belongs to Language Arts, and it's all ready to be used. So that's how easy it is to create a new course and how to organize it with subjects. So a few things to look out for. One kind of best practice is I would not recommend naming a subject and course the exact same name. So you wouldn't want to have a course named Language Arts and have a subject named Language Arts, because first of all, language arts is not specific enough to be a course name. But then it would be confusing throughout the program. You wouldn't necessarily know if you're referencing the subject language arts or the course language arts. So definitely try to be more specific with the naming on courses and keep the subjects nice and broad. The other thing I'll mention is that a slash, like this, a forward slash, shows the break between subject and course. And what I mean by that is when you're in Homeschool Tracker, and I'll just jump over to the agenda real quick and just, I'm going to add a new assignment here. We'll go over this in a second, but if I were selecting what subject and course this assignment was for, go ahead and hit the space bar here. You'll notice that I could select history. I can select history slash ancient history 1. So that slash designates the break between subject and course. So I can create assignments that just belong to a subject, in this case, history. But if I want to be more specific and have it belong to a course, I want to make sure I select ancient history 1, which is part of the history subject. And that way I know that this assignment is going to count towards ancient history 1. So just something to be aware of. Okay. So now we are going to dive into assignments. And assignments are really all of the tasks, all the schoolwork tasks that we give our students to complete. Anything that we want to keep track of over time and to possibly grade or just know that this was a task that was completed. These are assignments. So they could be homework, they could be lessons, they could be tests, they could be quizzes. Um, those are all different activities within an assignment. But generally speaking, an assignment is just anything that we literally assign or give to our student to do. And we like to consider or call assignments the heart of all of your record keeping within Homeschool Tracker. So as you can see, we've got assignments right here in the middle, and they can come from a couple different places. You can create assignments individually or in a series, and I'll show you how to do that. Or assignments can come from a lesson plan, and once they go through the scheduler, they will become assignments, and we'll show you how to do that as well. And the cool thing is once you have assignments, you have all that data within the assignment, things like the student and the subject and the points possible and the date and all of these things. You have all this data packed into an assignment. Once you start using them and marking them complete or grading them, you can start to do lots of things. So for example, you can generate report cards and transcripts after you have um, graded assignments. You can generate attendance records using assignments. You can create task lists of your agenda because of assignments. And all of those other additional reports that we looked at in the menu, those can pretty much all be generated because of assignments. So that's why we really say that it's the heart of all your record keeping within Homeschool Tracker. So here's what a basic assignment entry form looks like. And we actually kind of saw this a moment ago. Um, Basically, you have only a few required fields. You need a student, you need a subject course, and you need a date. Those are the only things that are actually required. Obviously, the more you put into an assignment, the more things you can do with it later. So things like activity, that could be like a lesson, a quiz, a test, homework, a resource, that could be a book that exists in your library within Homeschool Tracker. PLC, that stands for page lesson chapter. So it could be chapter 4, lesson 2, that sort of thing. Start and end time. So you could have an assignment start at 10 a.m. and go to 11:30 a.m. if you like. If you don't want to assign specific times to the assignment, you certainly can do that, and it'll just show up as an all-day assignment, which just means that your student can do it at any point throughout the day. Points possible and points earned. This is where you would enter grading information. Time spent, that can be entered manually or it can be calculated automatically based off the start and end times. This is really important if you need to track, for example, how much time you spend on a specific subject or course for to send to your state maybe every month or something like that. You can choose whether or not you want this assignment to be rescheduled when we run the reschedule operation. And then complete, you can mark the assignment complete by either a teacher or a student. We'll talk about that in a second. And then directions, you can add detailed directions on what the student or you need to do for that particular assignment. And then there are a number of other optional fields that are available within the program options as well. So I mentioned the complete box, the checkbox for that. Um, and the cool thing about that is once an assignment is marked complete by a teacher, a number of things happen. So attendance can be recorded if you have auto attendance enabled. Grades are generated and calculated. Time spent can be calculated. And from all of that information, from all that data, you can generate all of those different reports that we looked at earlier. So, excuse me, let's do a little demo on assignments here. What we'll do is we'll create single and multiple assignments. We'll add grades to them and we'll mark them complete. And we'll do that both from the calendar view and the list view. So I'm going to jump back here. And from the main menu, I'm just going to go to Agenda Calendar View. And this is the calendar view. It looks kind of like any other calendar that you might be familiar with. I don't have anything on here right now because this is basically kind of a fresh account. And so what I'll do is I'm just going to create a single assignment. So I'll go up to Add and choose Assignment Single. And like I said before, I have a number of optional fields enabled right now, so that's why you see a lot of this. But you might not necessarily see all of these different fields here. So I'm going to choose a student, choose my daughter Campbell, and then a subject course. I'm going to choose Ancient History 1. And an activity, these are all smart entry fields, by the way. So I can either hit the space bar to see a list, or I can just start typing. I'm going to call this a lesson. I can choose a resource, which searches my library for different resources. I'll just pick one of these. And I think, and for page, lesson, chapter, I'll just put chapter 1. And I'll have the date be today. And we'll have the start be 8 a.m. to 10 a.m. And we'll have this be worth 10 points. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and save that. And oh yeah, here it is. Today's the 26th. Okay, so here you go. You see I have the assignment for Campbell, Ancient History 1, and it's a lesson. Now, excuse me, my throat is really sore this evening. I'm going to change this to the weekly view just so we can see what that looks like. Here we go. So Tuesday, 8 a.m. to 10 a.m. is Campbell's assignment. Excuse me. Now let's say Tuesday's come and gone, and I want to go in and grade this assignment and mark it complete. I'll just go ahead and double click on it. And I see a little preview of it here. I can always click on more to go to the full editor here. Excuse me. And let's go ahead and give it a grade. So it was worth 10 points. I'm going to go ahead and give her 8 points out of 10. I'm going to go ahead and mark this complete by checking that box. When I did that, you'll notice that it calculated this grade of 80%. So I'll go ahead and click Save. And you may have noticed that, first of all, the assignment turned a little bit darker in color just to show us that it had been completed. And also, this Campbell present showed up here in the all day section. And this is an attendance record that was generated because I have auto attendance enabled. And what auto attendance does is basically says that if you have an assignment that was completed on a day, we're going to assume that your student was in school that day. So we'll go ahead and give them an attendance record as well. This is obviously important if you need to submit attendance reports to your state or something like that. You can also create attendance records manually if you like. Okay, so there you go. I have created an assignment, marked it complete, and given it a grade. Now, when we think about workflows, kind of jumping ahead a little bit, plenty of Homeschool Tracker users do this on a daily basis. They might, you may be the night before or the morning of, create all of the assignments for their student. And then at the end of the day, go back in and give them grades and mark them complete. The other way that this works really well is if, for example, if you are more of an unschooler, or you don't necessarily like to just kind of plan out your whole day, you can go in at the end of the day and just add in all of the work that you did that day or that your student did. The advantage of this is that you don't necessarily need to know what you're going to do that day. You can just kind of have the day go and see what you accomplish, and then just log all of the lessons that you did that day. And that becomes really powerful because Homeschool Tracker becomes more of a logging tool than necessarily a planning tool. And that's totally fine because at the end of the day, or excuse me, at the end of the year, for example, you can still generate a transcript or report card because you've been logging all of your work over time. So, just to kind of give you some examples of how folks use Homeschool Tracker on a daily basis. So, let's now create more than one assignment at a time. I'm going to go ahead and click on Add and choose Assignment Multiple. And what this does is it loads up this little wizard here. So you have these different tabs at the top to allow you to jump to the next phases in the wizard. Um, so I can go ahead and select the students. So right off the bat, you'll notice that you can create an assignment for more than one student at a time. I'm just going to keep this just for Campbell for now. I'll choose ancient history as the course. Again, these will be lessons. I'll select resource. And then I'll select start and end times as well. And again, maybe the more to be 10 points. And then I'll continue to day and date. That moves me to the next tab here. And let's go ahead and have it start on, not today, but tomorrow. And we'll have this go every day. And here's an option where it says continue creating items until PLC pattern is exhausted. Or we can choose continue creating items until a specified date. I'm going to choose this PLC pattern is exhausted just to show you what that does. Now I'll continue to PLC. Now, PLC, if you remember, stands for page lesson chapter. And the thing about page lesson chapter is you're probably not going to create 10 assignments that all have the same page lesson chapter. More than likely, it's going to increment over time. So the first assignment might be lesson 1, then it might be lesson 2, lesson 3, lesson 4, etc. So Homeschool Tracker has these kind of built-in auto increment tools so that you can generate a series of assignments and have the page lesson chapter increment automatically. You can choose a 1-part increment, 2-part, or 3-part. I'm going to choose a 1-part right now. And this will be chapter. And I'll start with chapter 2. And 2, 3, 4, and I'll end with 4. I'll increment by 1. If I want to see a sample of what that's going to look like, it's going to go chapter 2, 3, 4. And if you remember, I had selected that continue until PLC pattern is exhausted option. So this pattern is going to be exhausted when it gets to chapter 4. So it's just going to create 3 assignments basically. Now the 2-part and 3-part auto increment allows you to add additional increments within the PLC. So if you wanted something that said like chapter 1, lesson 1, chapter 1, lesson 2, chapter 1, lesson 3, chapter 2, lesson 1, chapter 2, lesson 2, you could do that using these different auto increments here. But I'm just going to do the 1 part and I'll continue to preview. And so the preview is just that. It's just a preview of what it's about to create. So I can see that it's going to create assignments for Campbell on Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday for chapter 2, 3, and 4 from 8 to 10:30 a.m. Now, if I wanted to change any of these things, I could go back to these tabs up here and modify them. But I'm going to go ahead and return to the preview. And now I need to select which ones I want to actually use. So I can hit select all and then choose accept selected items. All right. So there you go. Now you see already I have 3 additional assignments here. And if I open these up, you'll notice that this is chapter 2, this one's chapter 3, and then this one is chapter 4. So very quickly, we are able to create multiple assignments that automatically increment over time. And you could obviously do more than just 3 of them if you wanted. You could create 10 of them or however many you needed. So that's kind of how you would create multiple assignments all at once. And again, you could go back in here and edit them. You could give them grades. You could mark them complete all from the calendar view here. So I want to show you how to do this from the list view as well. But before we do that, I'm just going to give you a quick overview of the rest of the calendar features here, just so you get an idea. So one thing I'll point out is you can, resize these, or I guess resize isn't the right word, kind of reschedule them by changing the duration if you want. You can move them around. to change the time of when they occur, or even move them to another day if you like. The different view options over here, you can view things by day, by week, by work week, by month. There they are down there. We also have this agenda option, which essentially will show you your daily agenda in a kind of a list view here. And then there's also this timeline option, which will show it in a horizontal timeline. This is kind of nice if you have multiple students, because you can kind of see what they're all doing at a glance. Over here at the top, these blue tabs here, these are filters. So right now I am viewing all students, all types of items, all completion statuses, and all subjects and courses. If I wanted to, for example, change this, let's say I didn't want to view attendance records, could uncheck that, and then that disappears. The attendance record is still there, I'm just not viewing it right now. And this becomes handy, especially if you have a lot of items or a lot of students. You just want to, kind of clean things up a little bit just to work with what you want to see. We have this today button, which takes you directly to today. These navigation buttons move you forward or backward in time. And then this export to PDF button, this is a new feature. Basically what it does is whatever you see on the calendar at that moment, if you click export to PDF, go ahead and do that, it will save a PDF of that view to your downloads folder. And you can then, I just opened it up here, you can then print this, email it, do whatever you like with it. So that's a great feature um, for a number of reasons. If you just want a copy of your calendar, if you want, um, to print it out and give it to your student, whatever you want to do with it, you certainly can. And that applies to whatever view that you're in. So if I wanted to do, a daily calendar, I could do that and export that to a PDF. And now I can have just that day in a PDF. Oh, just closed that on accident. Let me reopen that real quick. There we go. Sorry about that, folks. Just go back to where we were. Okay, so now I'd like to show you how to do all of this from the list view as well. So that was all from the calendar view. Now we're gonna jump to the list view. Now the agenda list view, it's all the same data. That's important to keep in mind. We're still viewing the same agenda information, but rather than view it in a calendar format, now we're viewing it in a list format. And the advantage of that is the ability to see kind of more than one item at once. So from the calendar, you can really only kind of open and work with one item at a time. But in the list view, I can already see, kind of the differences between all these different items. Um, I can select more than one item if I wanted to edit more than one at a time. So just different ways to work with the same data. So real quick, just to kind of give you a overview of what this screen can do. On the left, these are your filters, the ones that were very similar to the calendar view. So the types of items, the students, the date range, that sort of thing are all here. Within this grid here, these are all of the different fields within the assignment. So if I opened it up, I could edit the assignment just like from the calendar view. You can sort and group by any number of these columns up here. So if I wanted to sort these by date descending, I could do that like that. You can also sort by more than one column at a time. So you can have more than one sort turned on. To clear a sort, you just keep clicking on it until the little triangle here disappears. You can also group by item. And so this is kind of helpful if you have, especially multiple students. If I take a column header like this and just drag it up to this area above, now I can group by, in this case, type. So I have all of my assignments together and all of my attendance records together. You could imagine if you have multiple students, you might want to group by student. So you could see all of Campbell's items and then all of Manning's items or whatever it might be. You also have the ability to search right here. So if I just search for, excuse me, lesson, it will just pull up the items that have lesson in them. So I'm going to clear that. But one thing I want to show you from here is that I can edit more than one item at a time. So I'm going to take these 3 assignments, select them, and choose Action, Multi-Edit. And let's say I want to change the time from 10:30 to 10. I can go ahead and hit save. And now you'll see that they've all changed time. Let's say I also want to add grades to them. You can go back to multi-edit, and let's say she got a 9 out of 10 on all of those. And I'll go ahead and mark them complete from here as well and click save. And so there you go. Now I have a grade of 90% for each one of those. And you'll notice that it also created attendance records for each one of those because I marked them complete. So there you go. That's the agenda list view. And it's really a powerful screen where, as you can imagine, as you get more and more assignments or more data to work with, you might need to manipulate it in different ways. And the list view certainly allows you to do that. Okay, so let's jump back here. So just to recap, we created single and multiple assignments. We added grades to them, and we marked them complete. We did that both from the agenda calendar view and the agenda list view. Okay, so now, excuse me, we're going to jump into lesson plans, which are a very popular piece of the program. And just a reminder, we did do this webinar specifically on lesson plans. So if this is at all of interest to you, I definitely recommend checking out that webinar replay. But let's talk about a little bit about what lesson plans are first of all. So a lesson plan is really a sequence of items that have not yet been scheduled as assignments. So they look a lot like assignments, but they're not assignments because lesson plans don't have a date associated with them. They don't have a student associated with them. They're literally kind of almost like a template for an assignment, and not just a single assignment but a series of assignments. And so that's really what a lesson plan is. And so these are really helpful if you want to plan out everything in advance, or if you're using like a predefined curriculum. So if you're a hardcore planner, or if um, perhaps you purchased a curriculum off the shelf, they likely came with a lesson plan that you could use to help plan out your school year. Now, the nice thing is that these are not tied to a particular student. So that means they can be reused over and over again throughout your homeschooling career. So if you created a lesson plan for freshman biology for your oldest, when your younger students get old enough to take that course, you can just reuse that same lesson plan and now just assign those items to that student. So really can kind of speed up your data entry because you don't necessarily need to create all of those assignments over again. And then the last thing I'll say is that these can be shared and imported using our shared lesson plan library. And so we have almost 1,000, I would say, lesson plans that have been uploaded and shared amongst Homeschool Tracker users. And the majority of them have actually were created based off of probably off-the-shelf curriculum. And this is helpful also if you're part of a group or a co-op. You know, you can create one for your group or your co-op and then share it with everybody else using the shared lesson plan library. So we'll demo these, and what we'll do is we'll see an example lesson plan so you can get an idea of what they look like. Then we'll create a simple lesson plan. We'll import a plan from the shared lesson plan library, and then I'll show you how to schedule these lesson plans so that they become assignments, and we'll also discuss using presets. So let's jump over here, and we're going to see an example lesson plan. So I'm going to go to the lesson plan screen. Now, if you don't have any lesson plans, there's not going to be much for you to do on this screen just yet, but I have a couple in here already. So I'm going to open one up, and I'll choose the Abeka arithmetic plan. All right, and so first off, you might notice that this screen looks a lot like the agenda list view. And that's because it's based off of all the same paradigms. You've got filters over here, you've got columns and searches and all this information. But each one of these items in a lesson plan also looks a lot like an assignment, right? So if I open this up, you'll see that this form looks a lot like an assignment. However, it's missing a date, it's missing a subject course. Instead, or excuse me, it's missing a student and a date. Subject course is there. Instead, you have a day number, and the day number in this case is 1. And all that means is that on the first day that you use this lesson plan, this is what the student should do. on the second day, if I just move to the next one, this is what the student should do. On the third day, this is what the student should do. Now, day 1, 2, 3 doesn't necessarily mean Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. It just means on the third day that you use this lesson plan. So you could schedule the lesson plan to only be used once a week, or it could be every other day, or just on Wednesdays, or whatever you want to do. Um, that's the beauty of the lesson plan because it's not tied to a particular date. You can kind of think of it, and I've used this analogy before. If you imagine, like on your desk, you've got a stack of lessons, and it's almost just like a hopper of lessons, or maybe it's in a folder of some kind. When you want to use a lesson from that lesson plan, you just grab the one on the top and assign it to your student. When it comes time to work on that lesson plan again, you just grab the next one and assign it to your student. That's kind of like what this is. This is essentially a stack of lessons in a specific order. And as you go through it, you just take the next one off of the top and assign it to your student. So let's just take a look at how this one is organized. It looks like for the first 11 days, you go lesson 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, etc., all the way to lesson 11. Then on day 12, you do an oral test. Also on day 12, it looks like there's a written test, and each one of those is worth 100 points. Then it gets back into lessons 13, 14, 15, 16, etc. And this goes on, and you can see if I scroll all the way to the bottom, it goes on for 171 days, all the way to lesson 171. So this is really an entire year's worth of arithmetic, first grade math lessons already kind of loaded up and ready to go. All you need to do is assign them to your student as you go, and you don't have to enter in all of this information every time. So that's really kind of what a lesson plan looks like, and hopefully you can see kind of the time saving and the power that can come with using a lesson plan, because to have to create each one of these assignments every single time you wanted to uh, could certainly be cumbersome. So having a lesson plan that's already ready to go allows you to be more nimble, and more efficient throughout your school year. Okay, so now let's go ahead and we'll create a simple lesson plan just so I can show you how that works. So I'll just go to add, and then I'll choose add multiple. And right off the bat, this looks a lot like the add multiple assignments wizard, because again, lesson plan items look a lot like assignments, but they're not. Um, so first off, it wants me to give this lesson plan a name. So it's already pulling in the one that we were just working on, because you could certainly add items to that one. But I'm going to create a new one, and oops, I'll just call this sample plan. And for the subject course, I'll just choose Ancient History 1. And these will be lessons, and let's go ahead and pick a resource. And we'll make each one of these items worth 10 points. So now we'll continue to day numbers. I'll start on day 1, I'll increment by 1, and then we'll go to PLC. And let's do an auto increment for this, kind of just like we did earlier. We'll do lesson 1, and we'll end with lesson 10. So I know I went through that fast, but hopefully you can kind of see where I'm going with this. Basically, once I click continue to preview, we'll see our results. But if you can kind of think through what we just did, I'm going to create, in this case, 10 lessons, lesson 1 through 10, on different day numbers, day 1 through 10, for Ancient History 1. So let's go ahead and see if that's what comes out. We'll do continue to preview. And you can see I've got days 1 through 10, and it goes lesson 1, 2, 3, 4, all the way to lesson 10. And this is for Ancient History 1. So I'll go ahead and select all of these and choose accept selected items. And now I'm back on the lesson plan screen. So I can go ahead and load up that sample plan that we just created. Click OK. And there we go. There it is. I have a 10-day lesson plan, lessons 1 through 10. Now let's say I wanted to add a test to the end of this. I could just go ahead and click on add single. Choose ancient history, choose test. And I'll make the test worth 100 points. And I'll click save. And so now it's up here. You'll notice I forgot to give it a day number. So it gave it the day number of 0. So let's say I wanted to just move it to day 11. I could just go in here and edit that to day 11 and choose save. And there you go. So now I have 10 days worth of lessons, and then on day 11, a test. Now, I could continue to repeat this process, um, for 180 days if I wanted. Or there are ways to create that really quickly. And I would recommend, again, watching that lesson planning webinar because we go over a lot of those kind of tips and tricks on how to quickly create lesson plans in that webinar. But this kind of gives you an idea, right, of how you can create essentially the template or, well, really just the lesson plan of what you're going to accomplish for a given course or perhaps an area of study, that you might be focused on for a period of time. So really cool stuff in terms of how to use this to save time and stay organized in your homeschool. Okay, so now next up, we are going to import a lesson plan from the shared lesson plan library. So if I jump back here, I'll go to shared lesson plans, and I'm just going to enter in a blank search here. And you'll notice that there are literally hundreds, probably over 1,000 different lesson plans in this shared lesson plan library. And you'll see, they're pretty much all based off the shelf curriculum. So you've got Easy Grammar Plus, you know, different versions of that. Obviously, not every piece of curriculum is going to be on here, but it's worth taking a look at. A quick search just to see if what you're wanting is here. Even if it's not, you might find something similar that you can kind of work off of. Or you could just take a look at some of these and kind of get inspiration for your own lesson plans. Um, lots of content here. So I'm going to go ahead and search for reading. And I'm going to scroll down to this Usborne first level reading plan. And here it is. So you'll notice this is a 15-day lesson plan, and it has all sorts of information here, different resources that they use, the PLC. So somebody took the time to create this. I'll go ahead and click on Prepare for Import. Excuse me. And I have to give this a name, so I'm just going to call it Reading 1. And I will select all the items. And before I accept them, meaning import them into my account, I just noticed that for subject course, they all say language arts, which means that it's just going to fall under the subject of language arts. And I actually want these to be in the course Reading 1 that we created earlier. So I'm going to choose Action and multi-edit. And I can change this right now. So I'm going to go ahead and change this to Language Arts Reading 1, and I'll click Save. And so there you go. It's set to Reading 1 now. Now, I'll also just point out, if you look under these resources, you'll notice that there's an asterisk here and it says new. That just means that these resources don't exist in my library currently. But what it'll do is when I import this shared lesson plan, it'll just create those for me, which is nice. So I don't have to kind of go in and manually enter those. So with all of these selected, I'm just going to choose Accept Selected Items. And it's going to go ahead and import this into my account. So there we go. I've got this Reading 1 lesson plan, and it's now imported right here into my account, so I can use it and schedule it however I like. Pretty cool stuff. So let's talk about scheduling it. So let's say, for example, I wanted to schedule the first, let's say I'll just do the first 4 days of this lesson plan. I can select the first 4 days and choose Action Scheduler. And I go through another scheduling wizard here, and I can choose which students I want this for. I'm going to choose Campbell, and I'll choose Continue to Day and Date. Now I'm going to choose I want it to happen every day. You could also change it to, every week, more than one day every week. You could choose, every month, however you want to do it. You can also choose preset, which we'll talk about here in just a second. But, I'm just going to choose every day, and I'm going to have it start on today, the 26th. And we want it to happen every day from 1 to 2. And I'm going to say continue until all selected items in the lesson plan are used. If you remember, I selected 4 of them, so it's just going to schedule 4 of them. Now I'll continue to preview. And this is just a preview, remember. So days 1, 2, 3, and 4 are going to go on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday from 1 to 2. And let's go ahead and select all of these and choose accept selected items. So what's going to happen when I click this is those lesson plan items, which were just kind of templates, or think about it as that stack of lesson plans, or lessons on your desk. I'm literally taking the first four of them, and I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to schedule them or assign them for Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday of this week. That's kind of the visual that kind of goes along with that. So I'm going to choose accept selected items. And now these four lesson plan items are now assignments on my agenda. Now, keep in mind, the lesson plan items are still here. 1, 2, 3, 4. They still exist in the lesson plan because they can be reused over and over. And that's kind of the beauty of it. So now if I wanted to schedule days 1 through 4 for my other student, I certainly could. And they can be going at different paces, depending on how fast or slow they're working through the lesson plan. But if I jump over to my agenda, let's just take a look at that. I'll go back to the work week view. You'll notice that I now have assignments here for Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday for Campbell. And this is that first one from the lesson plan. This is the second one, the third one, and the fourth one. Now, one thing to point out is once I scheduled those lesson plan items and they became assignments, these are now assignments, right? They're no longer lesson plan items, and they're no longer really linked to that lesson plan at all. So for example, if I wanted to change things in here, if I wanted to change the PLC to add something, type and add something, and I save this, it's only going to change this assignment. It's not going to change the lesson plan because the lesson plan is kind of the gold copy, right? That's like the template. Once it becomes an assignment, now it just belongs to this student at this particular time. Um, they're no longer kind of linked together. If I wanted to change the gold copy, the lesson plan itself, I would do it from the lesson plan screen, and then every subsequent assignment that we create from that lesson plan going forward would have those changes. But that's done intentionally because as I you know assign these lesson plan items to Campbell, I might want to customize them a little bit for her use versus another student's use. So just keep that in mind. Once they become assignments, they're no longer really part of that lesson plan at all. They become their own thing, their own assignment, which means I can change, how long they are. I could change all sorts of things. I could change, the number of points they're worth, that sort of thing. So that's how you would assign or schedule, excuse me, lesson plan items, and have them become assignments. All right. So next, I want to show you how to do that using presets. So this is where it gets to be really powerful. Um, and actually, before I do that, so when we go and we think about workflow, right? We talked about our workflow by adding single assignments or adding multiple assignments. Another workflow could be to have lesson plans and to assign, an entire week's worth of items as assignments for your student and be off and running. So, I just assigned 4 days worth of lessons or assignments. I could do that for all my lesson plans and have, the agenda kind of filled out for the entire week. I'm going to show you how to do that also by being able to schedule more than one lesson plan at a time. So I'm going to jump to the lesson plans and presets page. And this takes a little bit longer to load sometimes. Yeah, there we go. And I'm going to choose edit. And so these are the active lesson plans that Campbell is currently using within this, I call it kind of a scheduler 2.0. It's more of our advanced scheduler. And so I can choose from all my lesson plans which ones I want her to use in this advanced scheduler. So I'm going to add on reading 1, which is that lesson plan that we had created. So I'll check that box for that. Then I'm going to jump to the preset screen here. And first off, the preset screen looks a lot like the calendar view, right? Except you'll just notice that these are just days of the week. There's no dates. What these are preset times for when I want specific courses to occur when I schedule them. So for example, I have presets for Ancient History 1, Monday through Friday from 9 to 10, spelling from 10 to 11, math on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, and then grammar Tuesday and Thursday. I can kind of build out my ideal week for Campbell in this case. I'm going to go ahead and add a preset. and I'll have it be for reading one, and let's have it start at 3 p.m. and have it go to 4 p.m. And we'll do it Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. So there you go. I have a new preset now for reading one. So what the preset does is if I select the preset option on the scheduler, as the scheduler is running, it's going to look at the lesson plan, find the course, and then match it to one of these preset times. And it's going to schedule those items at that time. So if I now jump to scheduler, it's going to give me all of my lesson plans that I have active, and I can select which ones I want to schedule. And then I'll choose continue today and date. Now, we had looked at this before, remember? Um, if I select the preset option, none of these other day options here really matter because what it's going to do is it's going to scan my presets, compare them with all the different lesson plan items, and then kind of drop those lesson plan items in those preset slots. So I'm going to have this schedule. Let's do it for next week. Let's see. Today, starting May 2nd. And we will continue until that Friday. So we'll schedule 1 week, all of next week. We'll go to continue to preview. And so here you go. So it's scheduling 35 different lesson plan items from, 5 or 6 lesson plans, I think. And it's basically pulling in the next available lesson from that lesson plan. It's finding the matching preset time and it's scheduling that item for that time. So if you remember, I had ancient history 1 Mondays or Monday through Friday at 9 to 10. So there's that. And then looks like I have some math, some science. Here's that reading 1 lesson plan from 3 to 4. And then it does the same thing on Tuesday. And it kind of matches all those up for Tuesday. And it does it for my whole week all the way through Friday. So if I go ahead and select all of these and then choose accept selected items, you'll see that with just a few clicks here, we were able to schedule Campbell's entire week, all from lesson plans and presets. And that's what I would recommend too in terms of scheduling. I would only schedule 1 week, maybe 2 weeks at a time. There's this temptation to want to schedule your entire year all up front, but it really kind of limits you in terms of your flexibility because um, there's really no reason to. When you have a lesson plan that you can kind of pull from whenever you need it, it's best to just schedule a week or two at a time, just so that it's more manageable in terms of the number of items on your agenda. So now that that's scheduled, let's go to the calendar view to see what that looks like. So again, this was this week. Let's jump to next week, and there you go. I have, I think it was 35 items, 35 assignments now, all scheduled for Campbell, ready to go. So pretty simple in terms of scheduling. And when you think about workflow, a lot of folks create all their lesson plans and presets, and then every Sunday night, for example, might just run this and create their entire week's agenda. And then at the end of the week, go back in and mark things complete, or at the end of each night, however you want to do it, and then kind of repeat that process the next Sunday night. Really keeps you pretty efficient in terms of the amount of time you have to spend creating things and keeping track of stuff. Okay, so we're nearing the end here. Reports, real briefly. I mentioned this before, but they can be created as PDFs that you can save, print, or send. The daily task list, now this is a great report to use on a day-to-day basis. I'll show you that in a second. And then transcripts and report cards, those can be generated as long as you have at least one completed and graded assignment in a course. And we won't go over those tonight, but I think probably in the next few weeks, we will do a webinar just on transcripts and report cards since we're nearing the end of the year to answer all of your questions regarding those. But let's really quick just take a look at the daily task list. So obviously you can always export this as a PDF in any one of these different views that you like. But if you go to the daily task list under reports, you have a number of different options in terms of what you'd like to include in this report. I'm going to go ahead and do one for next week. So that's 5.2 through 5.6. And then I'll go ahead and generate that. So what this will do is it'll create a PDF of all of Campbell's assignments for next week. Um, and so here it is. So these are, I think it was 35 different assignments. So I could print this out, I could put it on a clipboard or however I want to do it. And then she knows exactly what she needs to do every day. And we can kind of check things off as we go. So this works as a great kind of checklist for all of the tasks that you have to complete in a given day. All right. So that's the daily task list. So just to recap the workflows, you could certainly create and complete single assignments on a daily basis. You could also do that with multiple assignments if you wanted to do that for an entire week. Um, you could also do that in reverse, right? Or not necessarily in reverse, but after the fact, where you could go your entire day, and then at the end of the day, just kind of log all the work that you did that day. And I actually kind of recommend that sometimes for newer users, just kind of getting familiar, because we can get really caught up in the planning of things. And it even sometimes prohibits us from actually doing, right? So if we just keep doing what we're normally doing, because you've already been homeschooling, so you're kind of used to some kind of system, and we just add in Homeschool Tracker a little bit at a time, it makes it a little bit easier to kind of ease into it. So, for example, let's say we're just starting out and tomorrow's our first day using Homeschool Tracker. Just go about your day the way you normally would. And then maybe tomorrow night, jump into Homeschool Tracker and create all the assignments in retrospect of all the things that you did that day. Give them grades, mark them complete, however you want to do it. And if you do that over the course of a few weeks, you'll start to build up, not only the knowledge of how to use Homeschool Tracker, but you'll start to see that, oh, all my grades are in here now, or all my courses are being created as I go. And you can then start to, think about using it as a planning tool by, creating your assignments ahead of time or creating lesson plans, however you want to do it. So that's the beauty of Homeschool Tracker. It's that it's such an open platform. It's really up to you in terms of how you'd like to work with it. So these are just a few examples. And then some of the more advanced workflows are using lesson plans and scheduling your students, 1 week at a time. And again, I would say 1 week or 2 weeks is probably more than enough to schedule. And that way you can kind of move things around a lot easier. And again, lesson plans, while they are certainly very cool, definitely optional, right? You don't need to use lesson plans. That's definitely a feature for somebody that is a pretty hardcore planner, or just kind of just already knows kind of what they want to do. But if you're just starting out and you don't want to, have to work for that or work on that just yet, no need to jump into lesson plans just yet. You can kind of ease into that as well. So lots of different options, and certainly these are just a few. There's other ways you can use Homeschool Tracker, but if you have any workflow questions specifically, you can always email us, and we see all sorts of different scenarios all the time. We can certainly walk you through what might work best for you. Okay, so Q&A. If you have any questions, feel free to submit those. You can click that Q&A button there in your viewer, and I'll be more than happy to answer all of your questions. Thanks so much for sticking with us. I know I was talking really fast there, but it's already 9:03. So even covering all that, it still took us an hour. So um, definitely feel free to submit any questions that you have. Happy to answer them. And again, email us, support@homeschooltracker.com, with any questions you have, questions you may have. I know things might come up later, or as you kind of jump into it, you might realize, oh, I wish I would have asked this. Just shoot us an email. We're happy to help you out. And again, we will send out a recording of this to each and every one of you that registered. We'll also send out a survey just to kind of understand, was this webinar helpful? Get some feedback in terms of subjects that we should cover in the future, that sort of thing. So would totally appreciate that if you were able to fill that out as well. It looks like there's no questions coming in. So again, just want to say thank you so much for joining us. I know there are so many different things you could do on a Tuesday night at 8 o'clock. So we totally appreciate you stopping by and giving us some of your time. And I hope this was really helpful. And again, don't hesitate to reach out. It's really our mission to, again, like I said at the beginning, not just to create things like Homeschool Tracker, but to really support you and be your advocate along the way. So Thank you again so much for joining us, and we'll hope to see you again soon. Thanks. Have a good night.